just a few minutes. We are now live streaming.
Great, thanks, Margot. Well, welcome to all the councillors and staff and everybody else watching from home to the first virtual planning and consultation meeting that this council has done. So the meeting is being live streamed by YouTube. Those in the virtual gallery who will be invited to speak during the meeting are reminded that we are recording, and a recording of the meeting will be made available on Council's website after the meeting's finished and is also being live streamed on YouTube. Please bear with us if we have any technical difficulties. We are expecting everything to run smoothly, but if anything happens, if the streaming gets cut off, then we will adjourn the meeting and we'll do our best to get it back up online as soon as possible, but we'll make sure that we don't go through any proceedings while the recording is down. Before we start, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land. I believe all of us are currently on Wurundjeri Wairarong land, but those watching remotely may be on other land, so please take a moment to just acknowledge the land that you are on. In the Indigenous worldview, everything that we do on the land leaves a mark on that land, and that's why we do this acknowledgement at the start of every meeting. So I'll move on to item 3. There are no apologies. Item 4 is confirmation of the minutes. Do I have a mover? Councillor Eyre.
The recommendation that the minutes of the Planning and Consultation Committee meeting held on Tuesday, the 11th of May 2021 be confirmed.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. And a seconder? Councillor Payne. Councillor Eyre, would you like to speak to that? Councillor Payne? Any other councillors? I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. All right, moving on to the next item, disclosure of conflicts of interest. Any conflicts of interest, councillors? No. Good. All right, so that brings us to the first of the officers' reports, Eltham Town Centre, Local Area Traffic Management and Pedestrian/Cycling Improvements, Urban Congestion Fund. We've got one speaker tonight, Jim Connor. So Jim, if you are listening, I'm just going to promote you into the gallery now. And when you come in, you'll have 3 minutes. Hi, Jim. Are you there?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. Good evening, councillors. Thanks for the opportunity to speak tonight. It's a bit of a worry that I was the first person to speak on the first lockdown, and now I'm the first person to speak on this one. So I'll have to reassess my appearances, I think. This is my personal presentation and not on behalf of any organisation. I support the traffic management, pedestrian and cycling improvements to and within the Eltham Town Centre. On page 7 in paragraph 12, it states, by choosing investments that manage travel demand and exploring alternative modes of transport, the following outcomes can be expected. To A, increase walking, cycling, public transport use. B, makes vehicle traffic less attractive. C, provides long-term benefits with induced sustainable traffic choices. And in paragraph 13, it talks about the reason for the traffic congestion is the reliance on vehicles as the main mode of transport. Paragraph 14 talks about the project proposes to manage demand by undertaking improvements along the main road corridor in Eltham to encourage and prioritise walking, cycling and public transport. Then goes on in para 19 to talk about prioritising sustainable transport modes to reduce transport emissions. So there's a lot about sustainable transport and reducing vehicle use. But it seems to me that this project is primarily intended to provide much needed walkability improvements with raised pedestrian crossings within the town centre by slowing vehicles at intersections or crossing points. I don't see any initiatives to prioritise and encourage people to use sustainable transport modes, such as cycling or public transport, to or within the town centre. I question where they defined cycling connections from the Diamond Creek Trail into the town centre and supports there to encourage cycling dollars to stop and be spent with traders. There's a real economic development opportunity here that I think we're losing. Currently, many dollars cycle along this trail. Perhaps some riders don't even know there is a town centre where they could stop, refresh and spend. I agree there is a need to improve the section of the Diamond Creek Trail north of Diamond Street. However, I hope these proposed improvements won't permanently lock in this route and encourage council to continue to investigate an alternative trail section on the western side of the rail line that does not involve 2 track crossings by users. I feel the proposal to seal the car park around Eltham Central Oval would dramatically change the green, softer western surrounds of the oval, which is a treed backdrop along the creek, and would replace it with a hard surfaced interface of an extensive sealed car park. This would also require realigning of the Diamond Creek Trail, which would involve removal of trees along the edge of the creek. Thank you, councillors.
Thanks, Jim. Any questions from councillors? Councillor Payne?
Thank you, Jim, for that presentation. How would you recommend we get some of those cycling dollars to stop and spend some of those dollars in and around Eltham?
Thank you, councillor. Whenever I bring our riding group to Eltham, we find there's nowhere to put our bikes. So we end up just leaving them everywhere because there's no defined areas. I would suggest that council look, as the number of other councils have done, about providing bike storage areas within the town centre so that it encourages people to come, shop, go to the cafes and leave their bikes where they can, preferably where they can be seen from where they're sitting in a cafe, and that they can actually lock them up so that they are secure. I would suggest there are a number of spaces around the town centre, such as, well, near the railway station, near the supermarkets, along Commercial Place, near the cafes there, and perhaps even along Main Road, where we could have some storage for bikes, which would give people confidence in bringing their bikes. I mean, some of the people I see on trails are riding bikes worth up to $15,000. They don't want to leave them just standing anywhere without feeling that they can secure them. I also think to get the people from the trail to the shopping centres, there needs to be some effective wayfinding signage off the trail. I can ride the trail from Eltham Lower Park to Wattle Tree Road, and there's no indication really that there's a shopping centre there or that the stacks of traders there sitting to serve those cycling dollars that are riding along the trail. And this also applies at Diamond Creek and at Wattle Glen and also at Hurstbridge eventually as well. I noticed in trying to interpret the attachments, the engineering attachments that were provided with this item, that it seems to be that I'm not sure that it's actually acknowledging the desire lines of cyclists who ride around the central oval and then mostly ride down Youth Road. Not many cyclists actually use the defined Diamond Creek Trail around Andrew Park. So that may be another area that needs to be looked at. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Any other questions from councillors? Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you very much for the insightful comments that you've just given us as well. When you're talking about improvements on the western side of the railway track and with the Diamond Creek, trying to ensure that people don't have to cross the railway twice, I agree with you. I'd really like to see us have a Diamond Creek trail that does fix the missing link so that you don't actually get lost, that is a continuous path. When you're suggesting that, do you have a location in mind that you're thinking of? And secondly, with that, I'm wondering, what time frame do you think, is this a high priority that you see for the community and council, or is this something that you see that we can put off for another 4 or 5 or 8, 12 years?
Thank you, councillor. I might answer the second one first. In that, with the fantastic work that's been done on extending the trail from Diamond Creek to Wattle Glen, this is generating a lot more riders, and the Wattle Glen Cafe, the general store, is benefiting by those additional riders. When the trail is extended to Hurstbridge, it is going to generate even more riders. Therefore, I think any work to look at improving the link between, say, Youth Road and the other side of the second railway crossing is fairly urgent. From what I'm looking at, it appears that the design is encouraging riders to ride on the southern side of Diamond Creek, adjacent to the railway car park, and then go to the lights on the corner of Diamond Street and Main Road, and then cross Diamond Street there. I can tell you a lot of cyclists are not going to do that. They're going to either continue to ride the way they do now on the northern side of Diamond Creek, or even worse still, they're actually going to stay on the road and ride down to Main Road and then turn left. Because sometimes you get groups of 35, 40 cyclists together, they're not going to wait for 3 changes of lights to get that group through. They're going to do it in other ways. In terms of where it could be located, I would encourage council to continue to try and look at whether they can get access to the VicTrack land on the western side of the rail line between Batt and St Vincent's. I had a look at it on the weekend. On the northern end, there is plenty of land to work with. On the southern end, there's a bit more of a challenge in terms of engineering. The other option, I guess, which I know council's looked at over the years, is to run the trail adjacent to the Diamond Creek once it comes out of Andrew Park, and then pick it up back onto Railway Parade further up. That is probably perhaps a longer term, more expensive option, but I'm sure it can be done. We ride on trails all around Melbourne, and there are a number of cases where riverside or creekside trails have been put in, sometimes supported on boardwalks to enable that to happen, taking into account the variation that can occur with flood conditions as well. Once the trail is through the Hurstbridge, people can ride from Mordialloc to Hurstbridge on trails all the way through. And this is the economic development opportunity I encourage council to work with their traders to develop, because this will happen. You only have to look at places like Bright, Wangaratta, Warburton. They trade on cyclists. They have stickers on windows that say this business is cycle friendly. Anyway, that's enough.
I think you've answered the question,
Councillor.
You'll
get me going.
About it, which is it's good. Are there any other questions from councillors? Councillor Eyre.
Thank you, Councillor Ramcharan. Jim, I'm just wondering, you mentioned about bike storage or bike racks. Do you have a preferred one out of those two? Do you think if we just had bicycle racks, would they be sufficient?
Thanks, Councillor, for that question. I think it depends on the location. Perhaps on, say, Main Road, racks may not fit in, but just a standard loop may assist at least two bikes. But in areas where, say, along Commercial Place or near the supermarkets, you could have larger racks there. A number of inner city councils have converted one car parking spot to a bike parking spot, and that can take 10 or 12 bikes within one car parking spot. I would suggest in Commercial Place that the first car parking spot north of Pryor Street, which is a difficult one to get into, that could perhaps be converted to a bike parking spot, and that would cater for at least 2 of the cafes just close by. So it would depend on site specific, which would take a little bit of an assessment as to what would be the best option and the best in each location.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Any other questions from councillors? Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. Jim, I've just got another question about the existing proposal for the Diamond Creek Trail improvement, where it's going along Main Road. There are 2 options for the community. One includes, pathways around the 4 electricity poles, and the other one doesn't. And I'm just thinking of the users of this trail, in addition to the cyclists that you're mentioning, school children going to various high schools and primary schools, other general users as well. What do you see would be the most appropriate design for council to adopt, understanding that both have got different financial impacts, but from the safety perspective and in terms of doing this, I suppose that's where I'm curious to find out, when you've looked at the plans, what did you think would be the way forward that you'd like to see council go in making that choice?
The less barriers that a trail has that pedestrians, joggers or cyclists confront, the less chance there is of issues developing and risk developing. So ideally, I would like to see the power undergrounded, and that there be no barriers within that area. Particularly if this is going to be a few years that this is going to be used. And so whilst there is an initial cost up front, the longer term benefits in terms of user safety and capacity, I think would warrant supporting that. And just on that section, I noticed in the notes that they intend to reduce the height of foliage on the corner where the trail diverts from the footpath to run beside the SEC, the power station there beside the railway line. I would encourage council to work with VicTrack and get some of their land inside that corner so that they take the corner away and actually straighten it. It is one of the most dangerous points on the trail between Eltham and Diamond Creek. At times the foliage does grow up and it becomes a blind spot, but there is sufficient space in there for that fence line to be moved back to take that corner out. That would then flow really well with the rest of the trail if the power poles are removed.
Thanks, Jim. Any other questions from councillors? Great. All right. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you very much, councillors, for the opportunity.
The waiting room.
Bye.
Great. There we go. Okay. So Jim was the only speaker, so we'll move to a motion. Do I have a mover? Councillor Payne.
Yes, I would like to move the recommendation that the committee, acting under delegation from council, 1, notes the Commonwealth Government grant agreement provides $5 million to Nillumbik Shire Council with milestones for delivery. 2, notes the outcomes of the Main Road Corridor Eltham Urban Congestion Fund Transport Working Group of Officers from Council and the Department of Transport. 3, endorses a 6-week period of community consultation on the Main Road Corridor Eltham Urban Congestion Fund project provided in Amendments 1 to 3. And 4, requests a report to the 14th of September 2021 Planning and Consultation Committee meeting, which considers public feedback to the Main Road Corridor Eltham Urban Congestion Fund project and recommends any changes which are considered necessary in response.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Perkins? Councillor Payne, would you like to speak to that?
I don't have much to say, just to say that this is federal money that we have been lucky enough to receive from the federal government, $5 million for Nillumbik and particularly along the corridor through Eltham. The deal with the money is use it or lose it. So we were lucky enough that we've had Lawrence and the transport team put together a number of congestion busting or congestion tweaking ideas. We can't build more roads to increase demand, but we can tweak the infrastructure we've got. We're trying to manage demand and to make moving around Eltham and that activity centre easier and friendlier for walkers and particularly pedestrians and cyclists, and mode shifting from car transport. So we're encouraging people to get out of their cars, walk more, use their bike and use the public transport interchange there. This marks the beginning of a 6-week consultation with the public, and I will be talking about this at the Wingrove Ward meeting on June 30th, and I don't know if that's kosher for me to push that at this point, but we will definitely be talking about this at that ward meeting. So I thank the team, and back to you.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Councillor Perkins?
No, just happy to support the motion and the $5 million, a significant amount of money into Nillumbik and Eltham. 6 weeks of consultation. Of course, there's an opportunity for people to come up with other ideas and suggest how the money might otherwise be spent. But this is a good start. So we're putting these plans out just for that purpose. So yeah, happy to support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. Any other councillors? Councillor Eyre.
Thank you. This project is looking to deliver a more user-friendly and connected Eltham and encourages sustainable and active travel modes, particularly for public transport, walking and cycling, as we heard from Jim, therefore reducing traffic congestion. By increasing our active travel modes, it's also reducing our carbon emissions. And this is a plus because we're currently working on our climate action plan. 6 weeks has been built into the timeframes for consultation, which is a really good amount of time, with the view that as many residents can give feedback as possible. And I would like to know, given Jim's feedback too, that cyclists and cycling groups will also be consulted. We want to know that our Nillumbik community, but also the wider Nillumbik community who utilise what's on offer in Eltham, is accessible and easy to navigate and reduces traffic congestion. I'd also like to know that the $5 million from the Commonwealth is being spent properly too. So the more people that give feedback within the community, the more that we know that the money that's been spent properly and not later having regrets. And I'd also like to say thank you for this amazing grant opportunity. $5 million is massive. So thank you very much to the Commonwealth Government. So more than ever, we need to hear from community.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Any other councillors? Councillor Duffy?
Thank you. I'm also very grateful to the federal government for providing $5 million to Nillumbik to help improve traffic movement in our shire. This money is to be spent along the main road Fitzsimmons area. So, you know, that's why it's being spent here in Eltham. And as a resident of Eltham North since 2008, I've witnessed a steady growth in traffic and the subsequent congestion over the 13 years that I've been here. The initiatives that have been identified by Council's transport team are very worthy and will make improvements, particularly regarding pedestrian safety. Much of the traffic congestion through Main Road Fitzsimmons Lane, though, is related to the urban growth in the north of and our commuters that are passing through Eltham to travel over the Yarra. So I'm particularly interested to see, you know, how we can improve their travel experience by road. And with this plan and this money, how we can maximise, you know, maybe changing behaviour. So, you know, there's a big emphasis here on changing behaviour to, you know, include more people cycling to Eltham. But if we're wanting to really tackle congestion and we're wanting to make a big dent into the commuters that use Main Road Fitzsimmons Lane, we need to do something about the Diamond Creek Trail. And I like Jim's comment about this with a sense of urgency, because to ask people to change their behaviour from travelling in cars to riding bikes from, you know, Diamond Creek through to the city, or from, you know, even further north, Plenty, etc., or wherever they're coming from, but I suppose mainly the Diamond Creek Trail I'm talking about here. You know, we need to have a good trail, and we need to have it complete, and we need it to have it without, the cracks and that it currently has. So I commend the council for the work in this, and I would really like to hear what the rest of the community's got to say about the initiatives that are being put forward, but particularly about the Diamond Creek Trail, and whether this is fixing the missing link or whether this is just the Band-Aid before we really fix the missing link with the Diamond Creek Trail. And even with comments about wayfinding and how to make it easier to find your way along the trail. And it was really great to hear Jim's suggestions today about tapping into where the shops are, and, you know, hopefully there'll be other people that will be able to come forward with their comments to provide more insight into what they think we should be paying attention to. So again, like other councillors have said, very grateful to the federal government for this $5 million. It's fabulous to have that money to be able to do this good work. Oh, and you know, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Any other councillors? All right, I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. So the next item is the Revenue and Rating Plan 2021 to 2025 submissions. We have one person who's submitted something for me to read out. So Gilla Schnapp, and I'll read out Gilla's message. Gilla has written, Group presentation to draft revenue and rating plan. We reserve all our rights. Please table this presentation. Justice does not date. We ensure equity and fairness in your planning for all of the original part of the suburb of Diamond Creek west of the train line and ensure these decisions are open and transparent. As this plan has been exhibited and submissions called for after the budget 2021 to 2022 has been passed at the OCM 25th of May 2021, we request the following. To reconsider our submissions made to the budget that include A, funds for a priority, open and transparent review of the 2020 Diamond Creek MAC structure plan prior to its approval by the planning minister and associated amendment process to incorporate it into the planning scheme. This is to enable consultation afresh as the former will be too far along in its process. It will also protect the utility infrastructure planned for the original Diamond Creek before it is diverted elsewhere. B, funds are set aside to enable equitable correction of past mapping/zoning irregularities in Diamond Creek and other areas of Nillumbik. See again attached hard urban evidence examples which show that our urban residential status is indisputable, made confidential for this meeting. Note this evidence was submitted purely to support our draft revenue rating plan submission and is not intended for any other purpose. Type or class of land must be reinstated as exhibited in draft budget, and revenue rating plan category was not exhibited, requested, or debated as a motion. Although sounding innocent, it could have major implications. That the term and definition of differential rate other land be removed, its purpose/use and the land to which it applies is ambiguous and confusing to the public. Although defined in the draft budget and revenue rating plan, its rate in the dollar was not listed. As this is a new council, they have a duty of care and trust to please assist us afresh in the course and cause of justice, irrespective of any inequitable or erred decisions made by previous councils or others. The true urban status of our land must be recognised regardless of any final site-specific land use. We understand this new council's desire to cement the green wedge for the community in the new council planning strategy and council plan, but this must be achieved with truth, fairness and integrity. Gilla Schnapp, on behalf of owners/stakeholders of adjoining properties 40 to 46 Pioneer Road, Yarrambat, 14.5 acres, 175 to 199 Ironbark Road, 40 acres, and 201 to 219 Ironbark Road, Diamond Creek, 5 acres, all of the same distinctive Ironbark/Pioneer Road infrastructure catchment of which these lands are the urban extension. And that is from Gilla. All right, so Gilla was the only submitter, so I will ask for a motion. Do we have a mover? Councillor Payne.
Yes, I would like to move the motion as per the papers that we will see on the screen appearing now.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Perkins. Councillor Payne, would you like to speak to that?
Just to say that we have put the rating and revenue plan out for public consultation. We've had one submission. I think that's what tonight's business is about, noting that submission. And the rating and revenue plan will be put to the council at the ordinary council meeting on June 29. And I thank Vince and Robert and Malika for the work they've put into coming up with the rating and revenue plan.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Councillor Perkins? Any other councillors? All right, in that case, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. And that brings us to our final item, mayoral and councillor allowances review submissions. Nobody has registered to speak, so I will ask for a mover. Councillor Perkins, and a seconder. Oh, sorry, Councillor Perkins. I'll let you move the motion.
I just wish to move the motion as per the officer recommendation on the screen and in the papers.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. And a seconder? Councillor Duffy. Councillor Perkins, would you like to speak to that?
No.
Councillor Duffy?
I would just like to say that being a new councillor, I have certainly gotten an appreciation for the work that goes into being on council, and we did receive some submissions from people. There were 2 people questioning why we got paid $26,000 as a councillor and why the mayor would get paid 80-odd thousand for doing the mayoral role. There was also another submitter who said that they thought we should get paid more for what we were doing. And I suppose my comment would be that I find it very interesting that there are some other councils where there's just doing a quick Google search, there's a mayor in this country who's earning $315,000. That's Brisbane City Council. The Gold Coast Council, the mayor's earning $253,000. So for the responsibility of the mayoral role in our shire, I think $80,000 is a good investment. And when we look at the salary or the allowance that's provided to councillors, I recall a conversation with Councillor Egan saying that, she and a fellow councillor in the last council, Councillor Jane Ashton, averaged out their time on council, and it worked out to a pay of 11 cents an hour. So I know with the work that I'm putting into council, there's a lot of work in here, and there's a minimum of about 30 hours a week that each of us are putting in. So when I look at the, salaries of just the allowances that are provided to those 2 councils that I just mentioned, for councillors, Gold Coast councillors receive $150,000 a year, and Brisbane City Council around 161. So they were for, current times, 2019, 2020. So I don't think that we're trying to charge too much for the roles that we do. And maybe, if the pay was more, it might give other people who are really interested in council but don't have the financial means of being able to do the job on the allowance structure that's in place, the opportunity to do this role. And it's something that all of us on council have made comments about, that we really value the opportunity to be able to represent our community, and we're doing this to improve our shire rather than for our own personal gain. There would be other ways of being able to get a bigger pay packet than doing the job of council. I don't think the pay is the incentive for any of us. I think it's the outcome for the community that is the incentive for us. And so I do think it is appropriate that we are remunerated in the way that we are.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Any other councillors? All right, in that case, I will put that to a vote. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. All right, there is no supplementary or urgent business. There are no confidential reports. So that brings us to the end of our agenda, and I declare the meeting closed at 7:36 p.m. Thank you.